Hi, this is Vinay Bayer in conversation with Amit Chatterjee. Welcome to The Missing Link, the topic which we thought getting to know you as a coach.
Okay.
So, in this context, the stats in US for coaching is
Quite prevalent.
significantly high. The ratios are way too high compared to overtraining. And when we come back to India and when we check the stat sheet, in India it is not so well defined. The life coach scenarios are still picking up. Why do you think this is happening in India, Amit?
I can't call myself an authority on this, but for sure I have spent enough mind time to think about it. I think there are two factors. One is this, that the Indian society as of now, over the last 20, 30 years, is catching up at a very high speed to the huge, gigantic volumes of explicit knowledge and skills that people have to keep topping up with. Because in the last 30 years or so, probably, there is so much of knowledge that has come. So many silos have to be perfected. So anybody who is working in a particular function or in an organization has to keep on, be on the top of his game or her game regarding that domain knowledge, the skills, stuff like that, which is what I refer to as explicit knowledge. And the other factor is this, that the way we grow up in our society, because of probably in the past lack of opportunities for people to have a better life, which is related more from what you study as education, and basic education, or even tertiary education, that does not or did not in the past so much lead to, let's say, good jobs. And therefore, there was this, there was this pyramid which is getting narrower and the pyramid is getting taller, that people who really excel in something, they do get better jobs. So it automatically builds a mindset, not only in those individuals, but also in the entire society, whether you're on the hiring side or on the performing side, that you are the best or you have to be the best. And once you combine these two vectors, if I may refer to them as, then you have a situation where, because it is also happening over a very small period of time as a society, right, over 20, 30 years, that people think about performing rather than learning more. And having been acknowledged that they are the best when they come out of universities or in the initial days of working as what you call as ICs, individual contributors, they already are in the mindset that they are competing against people against whom they have to be better. So you are in what I call as in the game of comparative supremacy. Okay. Now, when you compare amongst people who are available, whether they are peers or competitors or even relatives and family, etc., you can never go beyond whoever your ecosystem is about. Okay. So the standards that you work in your environment actually is a limitation. You cannot think beyond that. And I guess that is the reasons that we are still in a situation where even professionals are asking themselves, how can I be better than the other guy? Instead of how can I be different, or why I need to be different, what is going to open up if I am doing things differently. So it's about this race against the averages that we are in, for example, and we all know the law of averages is always pushing you down. Sure. Because if somebody is not really bringing in a very different paradigm, you're not going to discover that new paradigm. So at the end, I would say that it's a game where do you wish to be a leader and discover new paradigms, okay, which others have not gone into maybe, or you want to be the best amongst the average. So that is, I think, the reason, the mindset that people still find it quite difficult to even think about that they can utilize or use a coach, for example.
On that note, what kind of people sign up to have a coach relationship with?
Oh, that's very interesting. I would say that the first and the easiest for me as a coach, whether you call it, some people sign me up as a life coach or even an executive coach, and I don't really mind the semantics so much, because at the end of the day, the person I'm coaching is my main objective, and to create or a better situation for that person in the context he or she is in. So the easiest for me is somebody who has realized that, I need a coach. And that happens very fast, and we get on to really very good results. And, they are the people who are probably already in their context of Virat Kohli's or Roger Federer's, and they know that they want a coach. And for them, it is not about that, they're going in for a training. They understand the difference between a trainer and a coach already. And they're not coming to me to gain any kind of, mentorship in their specialism or their domain that they're handling. They're very good in that already. But they're looking for somebody whom they can trust, and in a relationship which is absolutely confidential and private, they can explore, for example, themselves. They get help by bouncing their ideas with me. They don't necessarily have to go by what probably I may respond. And of course, as a coach, I don't tell them what to do at all. That's not a coach's job. But I probably pose a counter question. Okay, what about that, or what about this? Have you looked into this or that? And they're normally very, very, not only just well educated, but they're also very good and very intelligent. So that's the one first category, which is probably gives me the most satisfaction, I would say, and it's very easy to work with them. And it also gives my clients a much faster so-called ROI, I would say. The second category, I would say, are people who are not sure, but something has made them think that they need to explore, they need to go beyond the boundaries they are in, more or less, because they have also the natural intelligence to understand that their knowledge in what they are doing already is probably not related to what other things they have to do. It's like, for example, how do they manage their peers, or how do they manage their management? So a lot of people bring up, first and foremost, look, I have this manager, who is great, and he's leaving, and I have the new manager who is coming, I don't know. So, I just want to be sure, how to handle this new manager. Now, this is not related to, that person leading, whether say, design, engineering, IT, sales, whatever it is. That's not what they're coming for. And so they basically, the second category is at the, I would say, doorstep of that realization of the first category, that they actually definitely want a coach. And here they want to just try out and see whether this works for them. So this is the second category, which also signs on quite well, I would say, but it takes some more time for such a person to actually build the value out of it, because initially there is, I would say, if not skepticism, but they are a little bit unsure how to use me. So it takes 2-3 sessions for them to become comfortable in using me as a coach, because one has to use me as a coach. We are talking about Virat Kohli's or Federer's, or today maybe I should talk about not Virat Kohli, I should speak about Yashasvi Jaiswal's or Nitish Reddy's, for example, right? Sticking to the paradigm of cricket. And there is the third category, which sometimes who are not sure that, depending on their exposures, they're not sure they need a trainer, or they need a coach, or they need a mentor. And these are three different kinds of things that one can use. And normally, not much happens over here, because sometimes they approach me if I can offer them some leads for them to get a new role somewhere, which is not definitely what I'm about. And or they sometimes approach me that they can use me probably to brush up their CV, or I can probably teach them some tricks about how to face an interview better. So this is not what I do as a life coach or executive coach, for example. So therefore, these are the three categories I would say which come to me. The first and the second one is what normally I work upon, and yes, I'm quite happy with that.
I guess the second one is more likely they see the curve chart of the growth phase, the infant, the growth, and the saturation kicking in and then fading out.
So
that's
they
when
already
want
have
you.
the question. They may not exactly have concluded. Think in your mind. I mean, even for the audience, I mean, how do you think Roger Federer talks to a coach?
Yeah.
Do you think, when Yashasvi Jaiswal talks to his coach, whoever it is, I would still prefer a Dravid maybe over there, or tomorrow MS Dhoni, he's not going to ask only about, how he should bat this ball or face this ball only. But there are other issues. For example, how does he overcome when he has been bowled out for a duck in the first innings? Okay, what does he do between the first innings, being bowled out for duck and the second innings? And that's not only about the technique part of it. For that, there are trainers, for sure. So people who are good, they've already realized that they need a coach to bounce off their ideas. They need to, coach to discuss whether they should, breach that kind of a boundary or this kind of a horizon or not. When they're already in explorative phase of their own, leading their own lives. They're already leaders, I would say. And they need basically somebody to, as a bouncing board, as somebody holding their hand. And when they make those tough decisions or tough choices, which sometimes my role is to kind of nudge them into or push them into by asking questions. And the other thing is that they need to, be steadfast in executing those things. And that is where they use me, because we are all humans. And even the best, for example, because of the hurdles, because of the challenges that come when you go on a new option, whether on your professional side or your work side or over a life side, there are going to be unknown challenges that hit you. And that is when they use me as a coach. What should I do? And my question normally is not saying that this is what you do, but rather say, what do you think you should do? And they are intelligent enough to come up. And then probably it is my experience in life which makes me ask them about something else. Or then it goes to, well, how would you do it? There is a what you can do, and then there's a how you would do it. And it goes even beyond. Like when you get into the how, and that is obviously governed by who the individual is, because every client is a different book, completely different from another individual. Like I'm different to you, you are different to me. So each individual whom I'm coaching is a unique experience, not only for me, it's also for the individual, because for him or her, it's a new dimension in which he or she explores for his own development potential, for example, and satisfaction, and maybe even happiness.
In third category, guys, do they need coach to get them clarity over where they have to draft further?
Coaching as opposed to training is for me at least, it's a one-to-one relationship, right? And unless that individual is brought to the level of the second category or the first category, be able to take advantage of the relationship with the coach like me, right?
True.
Now, your question is, to me, is who brings them to that level?
Yeah.
Can a coach do it? Yes. But why? What will make them sign up with a coach? Now, this is where I believe that, a lot of work can be done by their management, their managers, and probably supported by their HR functions. So that's why I'm a big proponent of the concept that HR works as an alter ego of the management. And HR people, normally goodly HR people, have the knowledge and the understanding of how to, help this kind of a third category identify what is their development potential. And once they feel motivated about it, then probably they are at the right stage to actually work with a coach, with the HR or their management can arrange from outside or even inside. I mean, the best thing for any individual actually is to have his or her own manager as a coach. And I've done that in my life as a manager, and it was not only great for me, it was also, I think, great for my colleagues. We worked together, and they turned into coaches for their own people. So that's also builds a culture. That's what builds a culture in an organization of, I would say, using today's semantic, leadership delivery, and having a complete engine of leaders coming out in your organization.
That's ideal situation.
That's an ideal situation for sure, I think. I don't know anything more ideal than that.
Yes. I mean, I understand that coaching is something very, very personal and it's confidential when you go about handling a client. If you have a standard style or you adapt to case,
yes. So shall we address the so-called standard style?
Let's go.
There is not too much of the standard style involved as far as my functioning as a coach. The only thing standard is this, that I ask some standard 5 or 6 questions, which are the same questions I ask anybody in a first session, which I call the coaching mandate session. And this is a session normally I don't charge anything for, okay? So this is a session over a video call. And what I do over there is that, and as I said, these are the same questions I ask everybody, irrespective of which industry they are from, or from which age group they are from, which function they are in, doesn't matter. And I'm, as a coach, obviously, as a life coach, I'm agnostic to which industry or function you come from. So I have clients from banking, I have clients from IT services, I have clients from semiconductor industry, from engineering, automobile, etc., and all that. So now these questions, when I ask, I don't even speak about it. So there is a document which comes up which my client can see, and I say, look, I'm like your old-fashioned assistant or a secretary. When you answer to this question, what you see on your screen, I will type it out. So I actually type out, like an assistant, the answer that the other person is giving to the first question or the questions, okay? And when I type out, not deliberately, but because I'm not a professional typist or a stenographer of old age, and I have a mind of my own, sometimes the word that my client is using, I may actually type out another word. But then I say, look, if you don't like what I've written, please tell me, I will change it. Okay? And this is a way so that, they make a choice that what word they need over there, which makes them express or manifest what they really want to say, as a response to each of these questions.
As a prompt.
Yes. And so all these questions, which are essentially, the logic is, where you are today, what you're doing, where you want to be, and as what you want to be. How do you want to be seen by people who are precious to you? Okay, so mostly people I coach, they have children, okay? And so if somebody has a 12-year-old daughter, and then how would you, and her name is Nisha, and I would say, how do you want Nisha to see you, whether you are a father or a mother to Nisha, in 3 years' time? And I believe it's a very profound question, okay? A simplest question is, okay, financially, where would you like to be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, depending on, what is the age range this person is in, and etc. and all that. And most importantly, I sent this document then over email to my client that same day after the session is over, which normally takes 45 minutes or so. And with this request that please send it back to me within 24 hours with whatever edit you want to do on the answers. So this is again a chance that my prospective client has to think of, but not for a very long time, but 24 hours, okay, to commit to what answers or responses she or he has given to the questions which are common to anybody. And after that, when they send this, they can then make a choice they want to sign me up or not. And then after that, we start with the sessions. That's it. So that is actually the only standard part of my approach. After that, everything is like, I'm not a painter, but I think great painters like whoever, they paint depending on what they see, right? I guess so. So like our classical vocalists, they sing a raga depending on how is the weather, whether the birds are chirping, whether the sun is out or it's raining, so different ragas come. So for me also, each individual is a context, is a life that I'm getting into, I'm permitted to get into, and it's not just an honor, it's also a responsibility. And therefore, I have to, my way is no standard over here. My task is standard, more or less. My task is to help them, accept themselves to, begin with, and then to understand and commit to where they want to be and why, for example, and then help them achieve it. Of course, there is smaller milestones to it, but that's largely the so-called approach. See, it also depends on the gender, because in the society, there is a difference between a professional who is a man and a professional who is a woman. And for sure, it's not just my power of empathy, but also that I have to accept that there are different ecosystems that a man and woman works in. So when I work with my woman clients, and I'm a man and I cannot be a woman for sure, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, but not in this life. But I think I have to exert my power of empathy for sure much more, but also be very consistent as far as the values and particularly the values that my client adheres to or kind of aligns with. Because if my value system or my belief system even is in contradiction, even if it is in shades, I don't think I can do a good job.
True.
So my responsibility becomes more when I'm working with what I am not, and I'm not a lady. And for example, in my mid-60s, I'm also not a 30-year-old or a 35-year-old. So there my responsibility is even more. But when I'm coaching somebody who's 50 years old, I'm near to that person's perspective of life. At least I say that to myself, even though 15 years gap is there, but yet I'm nearer than to a 35-year-old or even a 40-year-old, and definitely to a woman, for example. So I have to be conscious that I have to keep myself consistent.
And coming to the question side of things, what kind of questions you ask your client who comes up trying to use you as a coach?
It's very contextual, Vinay.
Just to get their understanding of their goal or challenges what they're going through.
That's in the beginning. That's in the beginning for sure. That's the coaching mandate document I mentioned, which basically helps them to kind of, have a little bit more longer term goal and also some milestones to it. But in sessions that are going, these are basically about what they're going through at that time and what are the not just challenges, but sometimes questions they may have that they need to be unraveled so that they're clear. It is more to, help them get a clarity and sometimes clarity comes simply by prioritization. But it is easy to say that these are my priorities, which any intelligent, and all of these are very intelligent people and very competent people. So it's not that I have to so-called teach them what is priority. If I ask them, they just immediately answer, and mostly the answers are correct. Maybe I need one more time to ask the same question, and then they change the priority a little bit, and the top 2 or 3 priorities are very clear. But the challenge comes is when they then take up these priorities for execution. And during the execution, it is not about just that individual, because anything that any executive is choosing to do, okay, as a manager, as a leader, whatever, that will have different kinds of hurdles that they will be hit with when they go into the execution of that. Okay, I mean, let me take a simple example again of you decide you want to learn violin, which has nothing to do probably with your professional side, but it will have to do when you gain energy by learning violin and you come to workplace with more positive energy, which you use to do things which you have to do, which you must do, but it kind of, makes you leak energy. So that's how that side is coming in over here. But yet, when you try to learn violin, while you are learning, you will come across different challenges that you were not aware of when you made the choice to learn violin. Same way, in your work area, a person, say a functional head, has proposed a project, it has been, say, approved also. There are challenges even, to get that approval. And to get that approval, probably he or she has to, build allies. So now, to build allies, there are only very specific people who, if I make them my allies for the proposal, my proposal will go through. Now, suppose this is about Gautam, and I don't like Gautam. But now, during our coaching session, we discussed that you have to at least have Gautam as an ally for your proposal, but you need Gautam. Now, how to handle Gautam? Because Gautam is a tough cookie, and is probably different to me. So this is where coaching comes in. Okay. Now, then my client would start speaking about, when I ask questions about Gautam. And then it also, actually more important is, how does he feel about Gautam? And then I help the person to develop, or rather identify and develop certain way to handle Gautam, because the objective is to have Gautam as an ally for my project. Okay. The same thing happens even when you go in execution of the project. Then you need some other people to ensure that you are executing your objective, which is already, resources are already there for. Today in a globalized scenario, you have people who have to work across cultural boundaries, across different countries, different time zones. How do you handle those? So there are different kinds of challenges each client brings in, depending on, who she or he is and where she or he is working. And then, of course, there's a personal side. Because every day, a professional goes back home to a very different kind of a scenario. Somebody may have parents, somebody may not have parents, some parent is sick, 2,000 kilometers away, somebody has a partner who is, also equally submerged under a lot of work pressure. Now, who helps who supports who? Somebody has grown-up children, somebody has little children. So there are so many things you get back into. And you have aspirations, you have ambitions, you have dreams, you have desires. So that's the beauty of human beings, but it's also the challenge. Yeah. So there are so many different questions come in, and as a coach, of course, that's why in the earlier days I used to say I'm an executive coach. I changed to life coach because I realized that I'm not just coaching them for their role as an executive, but actually I'm coaching them for the larger superset, which is life, of which a subset is just their executive life. So that's the reason I changed it, actually.
With your clients, how do you help them overcome their setbacks or their self-doubt within themselves as a coach?
Yeah, you see, I have, as you say, let's say self-doubts, or I have, my favorite word is my weaknesses or vulnerabilities, right? So everybody has it. So every individual has it, right? We are not perfect, right? So if a client of mine has a weakness which actually is understood by him as a hurdle to achieve what he wants to achieve, then that particular weakness needs to be handled. It's not that, you have to become certainly Mr. Hercules with no weaknesses. No, it's not like that. So it is again situational, I would say, right? So it sounds very easy, when spoken by me in words, even to my own ears, it sounds like, I'm just kind of, touching the superficial aspect, but in actual life, in a coaching relationship, it's not just one sentence that goes in and, oh, yeah, eureka, and everything is fine. No, that's where the hand-holding is necessary. So basically what happens is that the individual, I'm speaking of myself, that I have to accept my vulnerability, okay? And a coach helps me accept that vulnerability, making me feel diminutive, even in my own eyes. Now, when I help them do that, okay, then they are able to walk firmly and stride across with their weakness or vulnerability as one little black patch here and there. That's okay. And of course, everybody knows that you leverage upon your strengths. Of course you do. But if your mind is occupied with what do I do with my weakness, then I don't even think about my strengths. So you have to first close the chapter that vulnerability is a natural part of you. And then only you can leverage or identify your strengths and leverage upon them.
As an obstacle, even to think of signing up with a coach, I guess the war is almost won the moment they understand that they need somebody to help them out. The help is already there in whichever form they can choose it from. But even to get there, there are a lot of obstacles for them to even perceive a coach in a particular manner. Like, I need a coach, and it is on a negative context that I'm taking help. So on those notes, how it is important for somebody to perceive a coach in the right manner.
The question is easy when you ask me that what is the one factor. So the one factor would be self-esteem. So if I'm okay in my own eyes, I can seek help. But if I'm not okay in my own eyes, which means that I don't feel good about me. I feel, inferior as compared to somebody. I feel less as compared to what I want to be. I feel weaker as compared to what I see around me. If these thoughts I have as feelings in my mind, then my self-esteem is a little bit spongy.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a common factor that all of us, okay, as human beings, we go through in different phases and stages of life. When somebody is stuck somewhere, okay, the natural feeling, I guess, is this, that, there are other forces which make my life so difficult. Because it is easier to kind of, find other forces to blame instead of me, myself. Okay. On the other hand, the point is this is common human psychology. It applies to me, to anybody. Okay. So as a coach, that's why I said that my power of empathy does not make me sit on judgment on my client or anybody I speak to or deal with, why he or she feels whatever she or she feels. No. It's to understand, fine, but I don't sit on judgment of this is wrong or right. It's the reality. If somebody feels diminutive, lesser, weaker, etc., my task is to help them handle this feeling, park it somewhere, and walk on to something which makes them feel strong, strident, purposive, and focused on their objectives.
Confident.
And act on it. See, nobody can remove my weaknesses. But when I start acting on something, my mind is focused on what I'm doing. So my task is to basically make my clients, in classical old psychological term, I would say, cross the Rubicon in their minds. Once they've crossed the Rubicon in their minds, they're in, the domain of action. And once you're in the domain of action, life is great. Life is great.
That's nice. Okay, how do you balance between offering advice to your client or empowering them to handle situation on their own?
Oh, I never give advice. I don't think a coach should give advice at all.
Does it mean it will be self-discovery for them?
Yes, it is. And see, like I said, that my task is, or any good coach's task, I think, is about being like Socrates. Just ask questions. And trust and respect your client's intelligence that they will find the answers. Your experience and your whatever life has taught me as wisdom is to find those, innumerable questions to ask. And they find it. They find it. I've never ever come across a scenario, barring the third category, sometimes few who have signed up or I have signed up, and then it's quite difficult because they're still not there. They're still unsure about, forget why they need a coach, but even what they want to do. And yes, you asked me this question, can a coach help them? Yes, but they have to be brought to where a coach can help them.
It's like the bus getting them to the flight.
Yes, it's like the last mile mobility.
In your coaching experience, what is the most rewarding moment for you?
Yeah, the most rewarding moment is when after a few sessions, I see that expression, which I would rather call as a feeling on my client's face, where she or he is, her eyes are shining, the face is looking robust, the body language is very, I would say active, and there is a complete different tone to how they speak. They start choosing different words which are more related to action rather than, passivity or intellectualism, for example. They are not looking for why something is difficult to do, but they are actually looking for what can be done. They're not even thinking about whether it is difficult or not, for example. They're like, these toy cars, I bought recently a few for my granddaughter, where you push and then you leave it and it just speeds across, right? So they're full of power. And you're holding them maybe for that session so that they just don't race off. So that is when that's probably the best milestone I'm looking for from my point of view with any client of mine. Because that tells me half of the job is done.
How do you measure success with your clients apart from they reaching their goals?
Like I said, this is I said half, because the next half is when they actually start acting on their choices. And that is the second half, that where a good client, intelligent client of mine uses me to ensure the success. Because see, all of us, again, anybody, between the time that you take a decision to do something, which is what I call as making a choice, and you actually see the results of why you made the choice, there's a gap, and there are milestones, right?
Yeah.
Now, before each milestone, anybody and everybody will face hurdles. I'm probably repeating myself. That's where the coach comes in to say, to hold you steadfast, because sometimes some hurdles can be big enough that may kind of push you off, and you may, because we are humans. It happens to me. There's nothing special. It's not about the weakness of a person. This is what happens to us, and sometimes the hurdle can be so big that, why did I make this choice?
Yeah.
But then it's about reminding yourself, which a coach helps to do, why you made that choice, and that rebuilds the resolve to keep acting on your choice and doing it, for example. And then you reach that very rarefied kind of it's like climbing a mountain. I'm no mountain climber, but you were, I know. So when you climb to the top of a mountain, you reach this rarefied environment. I've been in cars through that places and sometimes on my motorbike, and it's really a wonderful feeling. Then you look down and say, oh my God, how the hell I came over here? But a coach's task is that you don't, run away from what you decided to do just because it started getting too difficult.
I always remember one of my old teachers used to say this: if your objectives are very clear to climb the Mount Everest, then in the path, you will find amazing spots where you will enjoy the beauty.
Yeah.
You stop there and start enjoying, your objective of climbing is hindered. So always keep your objectives sorted out so that you don't stop anywhere in between because of even hurdles or even the beauty or the magnanimity that you are enjoying and you feel, okay, this is enough for me now. So that's where I guess the coach will play a role in terms of reminding him that for what he signed up for and also giving that, the energy to take it forward from there, be it negative or positive.
Exactly, and in that context, let me just add this point that, see, not everybody has to work with a coach or has had formally a coach. But using this example that you gave, I think people who really succeed and succeed and succeed and succeed continuously for a long, long period of time, they have friends, they have family or colleagues who are part of their journey.
True.
And they are not just ICs. They are not just contributed by their skills sets or domain knowledge. No, they are human partners to you. Like, for example, people I worked with, whether they were my manager or I was their manager, to be in the same cockpit with few of them was an absolute pleasure, absolute joy. Not because of what they knew, but because of I could trust the other person, or they could trust me to bounce ideas, to sometimes, I help the other person or the other person helps me to come out of those little oozy-goozy moments when I'm not so sure, maybe, or sometimes I'm physically sick, for example, to come out of it. So a coach is a lot of things rolled into one in a way. And at the end of the day, a coach is a human being, and the other person also is a great human being, my client. It's an engagement, it's a relationship which can only lead to, and should, I would say, only lead to positive experiences, including joy, including fun, including happiness, better health, mental health, and leave behind all those, negativities that we see in the society, whether you call it the burnouts or stresses and all that. Because if we handle our life a little bit cleverly, now to be clever, you don't have to be alone. You can use people. You can use a coach, you can use a good friend if he or she is having the experience and the wisdom to remain clever.
Amazing, Amit. It's a privilege to know you as a coach, and I hope our audience also truly believe in that. And I would want all of you to take a moment, pin a comment with respect to what you want in terms of clarity or what you seek from Amit that will really help you, prospering in your career or in your goal achievement or facing your challenges. Do let us know.
And as a coach, I not only ask questions, but I love questions. So please ask questions if you have any, and subscribe to our channel, The Missing Link.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Vinay, as usual.